I never thought I'd be the guy whose world would crumble over a betrayal, especially not from someone I trusted implicitly, my wife, Jessica. Our marriage, or so I thought, was built on love, respect, and shared dreams. We had met in college, and after years together, we married with hopes of a future filled with happiness. The signs of trouble were subtle at first, like cracks in a facade that I chose to ignore. Jessica started to come home late more often, her excuses always conveniently vague. I lost track of time at work, she'd say, or I went out for drinks with colleagues. I was busy with my job too, so I didn't want to seem controlling. But then there were the little things. She started taking more interest in her appearance, wearing makeup when she never did before and dressing up for outings that seemed mundane. I remember the day she wore that red dress, the one that clung to her curves. I asked where she was going, and she just smiled, kissed my cheek, and left with a hint of mischief in her eyes. I should have pressed for more information, but I trusted her. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. I returned home early, excited to surprise her with dinner. I had made plans to cook her favorite meal, chicken parmesan, red wine, the whole deal. When I entered the house, I noticed it was unusually quiet. No sounds of the television or music playing. Her car was parked in the driveway, but she wasn't home. I shrugged it off, thinking she might have stopped by a friend's house. As I placed the bags on the kitchen counter, I noticed her phone lying on the table. It was buzzing incessantly, a series of messages lighting up the screen. My heart raced as I picked it up. I knew I shouldn't snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked the phone, and what I saw sent chills down my spine. Texts from my brother-in-law, Mark, filled the screen. At first, they were innocuous, but as I scrolled, the tone shifted. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. I miss you so much. It feels so right when we're together. Just a little longer, we'll be together soon." I felt sick. I dropped the phone as if it were burning. My hands. The realization dawned on me like a fog lifting. My wife was having an affair with my brother-in-law. The betrayal was fresh and raw, slicing through my chest like a jagged knife. I was spiraling, my emotions a chaotic mess of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, but instead I paced the room, trying to process the reality of what I had just uncovered. When Jessica finally walked through the door hours later, I barely recognized her. She was bubbly and carefree, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I confronted her, my voice trembling with rage and pain. "Where were you?" I spat out, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. She feigned confusion at first, brushing me off with another flimsy excuse about being with friends, but I wasn't having any of it. "Don't lie to me, Jessica. I know about you and Mark." Her face went pale, the color draining from her cheeks. I could see her trying to formulate a lie, her mind racing for a way out. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, but I wasn't buying it. The confrontation escalated quickly, her initial shock morphing into defensive anger. "You're being ridiculous. You always jump to conclusions," she yelled. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here she was, the one who had betrayed our marriage, accusing me of jumping to conclusions. In that moment, I felt something snap in me. The love I had for her was overshadowed by a visceral need for the truth. I demanded she come clean, and under the pressure, she started to crumble. With tears in her eyes, she finally admitted to the affair, but her excuses flowed like a river. "It's not what you think. Mark and I just connected. You've been so busy with work, I felt alone." Her words felt like nails in my coffin. How could she justify cheating because I was focused on my job? I had been working hard to provide for us, to build a future together. "So, you decided to sleep with my brother instead?" I asked, my voice dripping with hurt. The emotional impact hit hard. I felt a mix of rage and sorrow. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I was left standing there, heartbroken and confused, wondering how I could ever look at her, or my brother-in-law, the same way again. In the days that followed, I oscillated between anger and sadness. How could she do this to us? To be continued. After that explosive confrontation, I felt like I was living in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake up. The days dragged on, each one heavier than the last. I went to work but couldn't focus. My mind spun with images of Jessica and Mark together, what they must have said, the intimacy they shared. I felt like a ghost in my own life, wandering through the motions but completely detached from everything around me. Jessica tried to reach out, to explain herself further, but I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. She sent me texts filled with apologies and pleas to talk. One moment she'd say she was sorry and wanted to make things work. The next, she'd lash out, saying I was being dramatic and unreasonable. It was maddening. I wanted to scream at her, to make her feel the pain she had inflicted on me, but I also wanted to find some semblance of peace in the chaos. I decided to take some time away from the house. I needed space to think, to process everything that had happened. I crashed at a friend's place, a high school buddy named Ryan who had been there for me through thick and thin. He listened as I poured out my heart, the anger and hurt flooding through my words. "Man, you deserve better than this," he said, his voice steady. "You can't stay with someone who doesn't respect you." I knew he was right. The thought of staying with Jessica felt unbearable. But there was a part of me that still loved her, part of me that clung to the memories of our better times. I remembered our wedding day, her laughter, the dreams we shared. How could she betray that? It tore me apart to think about the life we had built together, now reduced to ashes. As the days passed, I started formulating a plan, a way to expose their affair and let karma take its course. I knew I couldn't just walk away without making them both feel the weight of their actions. I felt it was only fair for the truth to come out, not just for me, but for Jessica too. She needed to face the consequences of her choices. I reached out to a couple of friends who had been close to both Jessica and Mark. I asked casual questions about their interactions, trying to gauge if anyone else knew about the affair. To my surprise, a mutual friend mentioned seeing them together at a local bar, laughing and holding hands. It infuriated me, but it also fueled my resolve. I started gathering evidence, screenshotting texts, saving pictures, anything that could serve as proof of their betrayal. My heart raced as I collected everything. It felt cathartic, like I was slowly regaining control over my life. I even set up a secret Instagram account to follow Mark, just to keep tabs on him without raising suspicion. One night, while I was scrolling through his posts, I came across a picture of him and Jessica at a party, arms wrapped around each other, oblivious to the world. I felt a jolt of rage surge through me. They looked so happy, so carefree. The betrayal hit hard and it fueled my desire for revenge even more. I decided then that it was time for the world to know. I would expose their affair in a way that would leave no room for denial. I wanted everyone to see what they had done. I started drafting a long message that would shatter their little bubble of deceit. I planned to send it to everyone in our social circle, our friends, family, and even some of Jessica's work colleagues. This way, they couldn't hide behind their lies any longer. But first, I needed to confront both of them one last time together. I wanted them to feel the weight of their actions in front of each other, to realize the depth of their betrayal. I texted Jessica, asking her to meet me at the cafe where we had our first date. It was a place filled with memories, and I wanted it to be the backdrop for this final showdown. When the day arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. I arrived first, ordering a coffee and sitting at the table where we had shared so many laughs and kisses. I watched the door, waiting for Jessica and Mark to arrive. My heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. They walked in together, laughing, completely unaware of the storm that was about to hit them. As they approached, I stood up, a mix of emotions coursing through me. They looked surprised to see me there, but I forced a smile. "Hey guys, I'm glad you could make it." I gestured for them to sit, the tension thick in the air. Once they were seated, I wasted no time. "I know about the affair," I said bluntly, watching as their faces drained of color, shock etched into their features. "The texts, the pictures, everything, I have proof." Jessica opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand to cut her off. "Save it. I want you both to know exactly what this looks like from my perspective. You think I don't deserve better?" I turned my gaze to Mark, who was squirming uncomfortably in his seat. "You, of all people, my brother-in-law, you really thought you could get away with this?" The emotional impact of this confrontation crashed down on me like a wave. I watched them both, Jessica's expression shifting from shock to defensive rage, Mark's face a mask of disbelief. "I don't need to explain myself to you. Jessica spat, her voice laced with venom. You're the one who's failed your marriage. I felt the anger swell inside me, but I kept my composure. No, Jess, you're the one who failed our marriage. You're the one who chose to betray my trust. And with that, I pulled out my phone, ready to send the messages I had drafted. I took a deep breath, my finger hovering over the send button. To be continued. As Jessica sat across from me, her expression shifting between anger and disbelief, I could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on us. My heart raced as I prepared to expose their affair to everyone important in our lives. I glanced at Mark, who looked like he was about to melt into his chair. I could see his mind racing, probably trying to think of a way out of this mess. But I had made my decision. I took a deep breath, steadied my hand, and hit send. The message went out to our group chat, a tight-knit circle of friends and family, and I felt an overwhelming rush of adrenaline. I had just delivered the first blow in my plan, and now there was no turning back. The words I had carefully crafted spilled out like a flood, every detail about their affair, the lies, and the betrayal. I included the screenshots of their texts, the photos, everything that could leave no room for doubt. Jessica's eyes widened in horror as she read the message on her phone, her face paling with every word. Mark's face twisted into a mask of panic, and I could see the gears turning in his head as he realized the extent of the damage I had just unleashed. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Jessica shouted, her voice cracking. "You're ruining everything." I leaned forward, the anger boiling beneath the surface. "You did that, Jess, not me. You chose to betray me and our marriage. You think I would just sit back and let you continue this charade? You've made a mockery of everything we built together." Mark finally found his voice, but it was shaky. "Dude, you don't need to air this out like this. We can talk about this privately." Privately. I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed painfully in the cafe. "You think this deserves to be hidden away? You thought you could keep this a secret, and now it's out for everyone to see. You both deserve this." The tension in the cafe was palpable. I could feel the stares from other patrons, their curiosity piqued by our heated exchange. Jessica was no longer the confident woman I had known. She was vulnerable and scared, with tears brimming in her eyes. But part of me felt satisfaction in witnessing her unraveling. I knew she had to face the consequences of her actions. "Please, just let's talk about this," she pleaded, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We can figure it out. I'll end things with Mark, just give me a chance." At that moment I felt a flicker of disbelief. How could she even suggest that? The cold reality washed over me. "You really think you can salvage this? You expect me to believe any of your words after what you did?" Mark, sensing the tide was turning against him, interjected, "Look, I messed up. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was a mistake. Let's just move past this." "A mistake?" I shot back, my voice rising. "This wasn't a slip up, this was a conscious choice. You both made that choice, and now you have to accept the fallout. I won't let you belittle what you've done." I felt a strange mix of empowerment and sorrow. I was finally standing up for myself, pushing back against the pain they had inflicted on me, but the anger was mingled with a deep sadness. This wasn't how I envisioned my life going. As the minutes ticked by, shockwaves rippled through our social circle. Friends began to respond to my message, their replies flooding in. I felt a mix of satisfaction and dread as I read their shocked reactions, their disbelief at what I was sharing. I was exposing their lies, but I was also laying bare my own heartbreak. Jessica's phone buzzed continuously, her face contorting with each new message. The reality of the situation was sinking in, and the facade she had built around her affair was crumbling. I could see the weight of her choices hitting her. She looked at me, her expression shifting from anger to genuine regret. "I'm so sorry, really. I never wanted to hurt you this way." But I wasn't ready to accept her apology. "You hurt me the moment you made that decision, Jess. This isn't something I can just forgive and forget." The cafe filled with the murmurs of other patrons who had been watching our escalating argument. I felt exposed but somehow liberated at the same time. For too long I had kept my silence, hiding away the pain while pretending everything was fine. Now it was out in the open, and I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. As I prepared to leave, I glanced back at them, feeling the weight of my decision but also a strange sense of clarity. I'm done playing this game. You both wanted to have your fun, but now you'll face the consequences together. I'm going to take time for myself and figure out what I want. With that, I turned and walked out, the bell above the door ringing behind me. I didn't look back. I felt as though I had shed a heavy weight, stepping out into the daylight as a new chapter began. The hurt was still there, but I was finally reclaiming my life, one step at a time. To be continued after that fateful meeting. At the cafe, things began to unfold rapidly. I had set the wheels in motion, and now everything felt like it was happening in fast forward. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends and family, most expressing shock and concern. Some reached out to offer support, while others were just plain confused, unable to wrap their heads around the drama that had unfolded. In the days that followed, I found myself in a limbo of emotions. I had exposed the affair, and in a way, I felt a sense of relief. But I also felt the deep ache of betrayal that still lingered in my heart. I spent hours scrolling through social media, watching as Jessica and Mark's lives began to unravel in real time. Friends who had once supported them were now caught in the crossfire, some defending me while others tried to remain neutral. Ryan was my rock during this time. He encouraged me to get out, to socialize, to not let this define me. "You're better than this, man. Don't let them drag you down," he said during one of our late-night conversations over beers. I appreciated the support, but it was hard to shake off. The feeling that my life had taken a turn I never wanted. One afternoon, while scrolling through my phone, I noticed a new post from one of our mutual friends, a group photo from a gathering they had without me. The caption was casual, but it struck a nerve. "Had a blast hanging out with the crew, missing some of our favorites." I stared at the picture, seeing Jessica laughing with friends, her smile bright and carefree, completely unfazed by the chaos she had created. It felt like a punch to the gut. I decided I needed to take control of the narrative, to show them that I wouldn't be the one left behind. I started posting more on my own social media accounts, sharing moments of my life, activities I was doing, and photos of me hanging out with friends. I wanted to show that I was moving on, that I was thriving despite what had happened. The more I shared, the more empowered I felt, but I was still grappling with the emotional fallout. I would find myself sitting in silence at night, replaying every moment with Jessica in my mind. The good times, the laughter, all overshadowed by her betrayal. I found it hard to sleep, and when I did, I was often jolted awake by nightmares of the two of them together, laughing and happy while I was left in the shadows. One evening, as I sat on Ryan's couch, I shared my feelings with him. "I just don't get how she could do this to us," I said, the frustration evident in my voice. "We had plans, a future, and now it's all gone." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "You know, it's not about you. It's about her choices. You were focused on building a life together, and she chose to betray that. But you have to remember that you deserve someone who values you, not someone who takes you for granted." His words resonated with me. I realized that I had been so focused on the betrayal that I had lost sight of my own worth. I started to think about what I truly wanted. Did I want to reconcile with Jessica? Did I even want to try to salvage a relationship that had been built on such shaky ground? As the days turned into weeks, I began slowly rediscovering myself. I reconnected with old friends, started going to the gym, and even picked up some hobbies I had neglected over the years. I found solace in the routine and began to find joy in my own company again. I learned to appreciate the little things, a good book, a sunset, or a quiet evening with my thoughts. However, there were still moments of weakness. I'd catch myself thinking about Jessica, about what she was doing, or if she missed me at all. I had been mourning not just the loss of our relationship, but the life I thought we'd build together. One night, I received a text from Jessica. It was a long message, filled with apologies and regrets. She expressed how she missed me, how she realized her mistakes, and how she was willing to do anything to make things right. I didn't respond right away. I read through her message multiple times, feeling a mix of anger and pity. Did she truly regret what she did, or was she just feeling the weight of the fallout? After some contemplation, I finally decided to reply. I appreciate your message, Jess, but you need to understand that trust is a fragile thing. It can't easily be rebuilt once broken. I'm not ready to discuss anything right now. I need time. Her response was immediate, begging me to reconsider to talk things through, but I held my ground. I needed to focus on healing and moving forward, not dragging myself back into the pain of our past. Weeks passed, and the dust began to settle. Jessica still reached out occasionally, trying to engage in conversations, but I kept things casual and distant. I learned to prioritize myself, my happiness, and my well-being. Then one afternoon, I received a call from one of my friends. "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that Mark is feeling the heat from all this. He's been getting some serious backlash from our circle. People are not happy with him," he said. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. It was as if the universe was balancing the scales. I had let the truth out, and now they were facing the consequences of their actions. I couldn't help but feel a bittersweet joy in knowing that they were experiencing their own fallout. As the days turned into months, I continued to focus on rebuilding my life. But I also knew deep down that I needed to make a decision about Jessica and Mark. I had to confront them both once more, not out of anger but to find closure for myself. With the help of my friends, I planned a meeting, this time with a focus on healing and acceptance. I wanted to find a way to move on, whether that meant reconciling with Jessica, starting fresh, or simply making peace with the situation. To be continued. I decided to reach out to both Jessica and Mark, inviting them to a neutral place, a park where we used to picnic together. It felt appropriate, a place filled with memories before everything had turned sour. The plan was simple. I wanted closure for myself. I needed to understand how they could have done this to me, and I wanted to convey my feelings without the intense anger that had initially fueled my responses. The day of the meeting arrived, and I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. As I approached the park, I saw them sitting on a bench, both looking quite uncomfortable. Jessica was fidgeting, glancing around nervously, while Mark stared at the ground, clearly unsure of how to proceed. I took a deep breath, prepared for the emotional weight of the conversation ahead. "Thanks for coming," I said as I approached. They both nodded, still avoiding eye contact. I gestured for them to relax, but the tension was palpable. I wanted to talk about everything that's happened and hopefully find some clarity. Jessica looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and something else, maybe guilt. "I'm really sorry for everything, truly. I never meant for it to go this far," she started, her voice shaky. "It was a moment of weakness and I let everything spiral out of control." Mark chimed in, "I want to apologize too. I never intended to hurt you, man. It just happened. We both messed up." I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. "You both messed up," I repeated incredulously. "This wasn't just a mistake, Mark. You both made a conscious choice to betray me. It's hard to reconcile that with your apologies." Jessica's face fell, and I could see the weight of my words hitting her. "I know it sounds trivial when I say it like that, but I honestly didn't think about the consequences at the moment. I was caught up in something that felt exciting, and I know that's no excuse." I nodded, trying to process her words. "It's not just about the excitement, Jess. It's about trust. You both violated that. You took something that was beautiful and turned it into a betrayal that hurt us all. I'm here because I need to understand how you could do this. How could you break my heart like that?" Mark looked up, finally meeting my gaze. "I wish I had an answer for you. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what happened. It was a horrible mistake, and I never meant to come between you two. I can't apologize enough." I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but it didn't take away the sting of his betrayal. "Sincerity doesn't fix what you did, Mark. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again." Jessica interjected, her voice rising slightly. "That's the thing, though. I want to fix this. I want to make amends. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching since everything came out. I realize how much I took for granted. You were always there for me, and I let my insecurities get the best of me." I considered her words, my heart still heavy with pain. "And how do you propose to fix this? What could you possibly do to mend what's been broken?" "I want to start over," she said, her eyes pleading. "Not just with you, but with myself. I see now how much I need to grow and learn." I want to be a better person, whether that means being friends or just moving on in a healthier way. Mark nodded in agreement. I want to do the same. I never wanted to hurt you, and I know it sounds empty now, but I want to make things right. I'll step back, let you have your space with Jess. I don't want to be a part of your life if it means hurting you more. I was taken aback. For the first time, I saw a flicker of understanding in their eyes, the realization of the gravity of their actions. But I wasn't ready to forgive or forget. You both need to understand that trust is not something that can be repaired easily. It takes time, and right now I'm not ready to even think about that. I need to focus on myself. Jessica nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I understand. Whatever you need, I'm willing to give you that space. I just hope one day you can forgive me. And you, Mark? I asked, turning my gaze to him. What about you? Do you think you'll ever be able to make this right? He sighed heavily, clearly weighed down by the reality of the situation. I'll do whatever it takes to stay away and give you both the space you need. I messed up and I need to own that. I think it's best if I step away from this circle for a while. It wasn't the resolution I had expected when I called this meeting. I felt a mix of relief and sadness, knowing that the chapter of my life with them was closing, but also recognizing that the pain was still fresh. I appreciate you both being honest, I said quietly. This isn't easy for any of us. I don't know what the future holds for any of us, but I need time to process everything. Be prepared for a long road ahead, because right now I can't say how I feel. As we parted ways, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had confronted them, aired out the hurt, and taken a step towards my own healing. The road ahead was uncertain, but at least I had taken a significant step for myself. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my own well-being, continuing to rebuild my life. I spent more time with friends, took up new hobbies, and even explored new places. I was learning to embrace my freedom, to enjoy my own company without the shadow of betrayal hanging over me. But Jessica and Mark were never far from my mind. I heard whispers from our circle that they were struggling to cope with the fallout of their actions. There were moments of guilt that tugged at me, but I quickly pushed them away. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with the consequences. As time went on, I found strength in my journey of healing. I realized that while the scars would remain, they wouldn't define me. I was ready to move forward, to embrace whatever came next in my life, free from the weight of betrayal. To be continued. Months rolled by, and with each passing day, I felt the burden of betrayal lift a little more. I had taken the necessary steps to reclaim my life, focusing on healing and rediscovering who I was outside of my relationship with Jessica. I began to appreciate the freedom I had gained from the emotional turmoil, learning to enjoy the simple pleasures in life without the constant weight of distrust hanging over me. I filled my time with activities that brought me joy. I reconnected with friends from college, took up cycling, and even started writing again, a passion I had neglected while caught in the whirlwind of my marriage. It felt liberating, like I was shedding old skin and stepping into a new version of myself. I was no longer defined by the betrayal. I was becoming stronger, more independent. Yet, despite my progress, there were moments when I would hear snippets of news about Jessica and Mark through mutual friends. They were trying to piece their lives back together, but it was clear they were struggling. I felt a strange mix of sympathy and detachment. I had once cared deeply for them, but now they were just part of a chapter that had closed in my life. One afternoon, I received a text from Jessica. It was both unexpected and anticipated. The message was simple but packed with meaning. Can we meet? I need to talk. I hesitated for a moment, weighing my options before deciding to meet her. I felt like I had come far enough in my healing that I could handle whatever she had to say. We agreed to meet at a small cafe, a neutral space where we could talk without the emotional baggage of our past. As I walked in, I saw her sitting at a table, nervously stirring her coffee. She looked different, more mature perhaps, or just weary from the weight of everything that had transpired. "Hey," I said as I approached, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Hey," she replied softly, her eyes searching mine for some sign of what I was feeling. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," I said, sitting down across from her. I held my breath, bracing myself for whatever was about to unfold. I know this is awkward, she started, biting her lip, but I've been doing a lot of thinking since we last talked. I realize now how deeply I hurt you and how much I took for granted. I nodded, trying to remain composed. I appreciate you acknowledging that, Jess. It was a painful experience for me, and it's taken a lot to move on. I want you to know that I've been working on myself, she continued. I've been in therapy and I'm learning to take responsibility for my actions. I know that doesn't change what happened, but I needed to tell you that I'm trying to be a better person. Her words struck a chord and I felt a wave of empathy wash over me. That's good to hear, Jess. Everyone deserves a chance to grow and learn from their mistakes. A silence hung between us, filled with unsaid words and shared memories. It was bittersweet. I've missed you, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Not just as my husband, but as my friend. I wish things could have turned out differently. I felt a knot in my stomach. I miss the person you used to be, but what you did changed everything, Jess. Trust doesn't just come back overnight. It takes time, and honestly, I don't know if I can ever trust you the way I once did. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just wanted to be honest with you about my journey. I don't want to lose you entirely. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I think it's important to acknowledge what we had and what we lost. I don't want to rush into anything. Right now, I'm focusing on my own growth, and I hope you can respect that. She smiled faintly, a mixture of sadness and acceptance. I do respect that. I just wanted you to know that I'm here if you ever want to talk or if you need anything. As we wrapped up our conversation, I felt a sense of closure settling in. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had taken significant strides in my own personal journey. We parted with a sense of understanding, both acknowledging the past but also looking toward the future. In the weeks that followed, I continued to embrace my new life, focusing on the things that brought me joy and fulfillment. I realized that I was stronger than I had ever given myself credit for, and while the scars of betrayal would always linger, they no longer defined me. I was moving forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Eventually, I found myself open to new experiences, friendships, and even the possibility of love again. I learned that life is too short to be consumed by anger and resentment. I had faced my demons, confronted my pain, and emerged on the other side, ready for a new chapter. In retrospect, I understood that I needed the betrayal to push me to discover my own strength and resilience. It was a painful lesson, but it had ultimately led me to a better place, one where I could grow, heal, and eventually love again. And as I walked through life, I kept reminding myself of a valuable lesson. Sometimes the hardest experiences lead to the most profound transformations. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold.